Live now, Chair.
Okay. Could you confirm is Jan Cleverly in, please? I can't see a picture of her.
I believe she is. I can see her icon.
Yeah, okay then.
I can't. Oh, she's on.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll open the meeting then. Thank you very much. This is the Planning Committee meeting for the 6th of the 5th, 2021. Looking at all your screens, we're quorate. And if I could say that today's meeting is being filmed for live and subsequent broadcast by way of the Council's internet site. The images and sound recordings may also be used for training purposes within the Council. Proposed public speakers have been made aware of the broadcasting arrangements prior to this meeting. Would members please keep their microphones and cameras turned off unless invited to speak by the Chair to contribute to the meeting, and please remember to switch off your microphone and camera when you are finished. Also, could you ensure that you refrain from using any mobile device during the Planning Committee, and any mobile phones / iPads are switched off or on silent. And the first item on the agenda are apologies. Are there any apologies?
No apologies, Chair.
Thank you very much. Next item, declarations of interest.
Yeah, Chair, I'm showing an interest in the application of the White Crescent application. Also, can Pamela try and send Jan Cleverly another invite? I think she said she's just been kicked off. I think she have.
Of course, no problem.
Yeah. I also declare an interest in the Tredegar Park Primary School, Chair. I'm a Chair of Governors there.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Watkins. And those two declarations will be noted.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. With that, I'll have to withdraw from the meeting with that application of 21162. Then, okay.
Okay, fine. Then we move to the next item on the agenda, which are the minutes of the meeting held on the 7th of April 2021. The usual process is to just go through them a page at a time for accuracy. So page 5. No, nothing. And then it is only page 5 actually. Somebody proposed they were a correct and true record.
Chair.
Yeah, I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you very much. And if we then move to the agenda itself, the first application, item 1, on page 15 to 18 of your paperwork. The application number is 20-1157. The site is Tredegar Park Primary School. The ward is Tredegar Park. And the ward member, Councillor Trevor Watkins. The presenting officer is Stephen Williams. There are no public speakers. And this has been brought to committee because it relates to council-owned land.
Chair, Councillor Watkins will need to leave the meeting for this one, if he is Chair of Governors of the school.
Right, okay. Councillor Watkins, did you hear that? Councillor Watkins? Councillor Watkins?
I think he's gone.
Okay, thank you very much for your message, Joanne. Right then, Steve Williams. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, everyone. I'll just share my screen. Everyone able to see that?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
The site relates to Tredegar Park Primary School, and the proposal is to erect a replacement boundary fence around the perimeter of the school, and the application has been reported to committee because it relates to council-owned land. So the red line around the site shows the perimeter and the location of the existing fencing. And the existing fencing is this vertical steel, like galvanized steel fence, and it's 1.8 meters high. That's the current appearance of it. And the proposal is to replace this fence with that style fence, which is a mesh, and it's 2.4 meters in height. And this is required to improve security at the school. So the fence would be higher, but it's very much a see-through style fence. So in terms of visual amenity, we think it's acceptable. In terms of trees, so there are trees that will be affected primarily along the southern boundary. So the fence currently runs through this woodland, and there'd be a need to fell 9 trees to erect the replacement fence. We've had a tree report submitted, and what they're proposing to do is to plant trees within the grounds of the school as mitigation, and to plant a mixed native species hedge along the perimeter as mitigation. In terms of ecology, we've received an ecological assessment. There's no significant species to be overly concerned about, but what the ecological assessment does as proposed is some mitigation in terms of some sensible construction management practices and some enhancement measures such as installing bat boxes. So we've got conditions imposed to sort of deal with those issues. No impact on neighbours, and there's no highway safety implications, and so we're recommending the plan permission be granted subject to conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Committee?
Sorry, yeah, Chair. Yeah, I think with this, as it goes around, you know, most schools now have all got this this wire mesh now, and I think it's just upgrade and everything which needs to be done, you know, and especially for the safety of the children. My other bit might be a little bit of a concern is when they plant the trees, how far or closer to the fence are they going to put them, if they are, and if so, would the kids be able to get over, you know, over the fence and into the school?
Okay. Could Stephen, could you just, who would be responsible for undertaking the planting of the new trees? Would it be the school or the council, or?
Yeah, the council would undertake the tree planting, and we've got a plan condition that requires a scheme to be submitted to show where those trees would be planted. And that scheme would be passed across to our tree officer for her advice. So those sorts of issues would be looked at as part of the discharge of the planning conditions.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Does that answer your point, Councillor Jordan?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine, Chair. Yeah, and with that, I would grant the application to go ahead. And
okay, so you support the officer's recommendation. John,
yeah.
Guy.
Yeah, can I say that I fully support what Councillor Jordan has said? It's an indictment of our society, really, that we got to have security fences, but that's the way it is, and that's been introduced in most of our schools. So it's, you know, security is what we want, and obviously everything is considered in respect to the trees. Yes, I fully support it and second it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, committee, has been proposed and seconded that we accept the officer's recommendation on this application. Are you prepared to vote? Yeah. Any other points? No? Okay, could you organise the vote, please? Pamela, is okay?
Councillor Guy, can I have your vote, please?
Start again, Pamela, okay?
Councillor Guy, can I have your vote, please?
Councillor Guy, are you in favour of the officer's recommendation? I assume so because you proposed it.
I raised my hand.
Are you in favour of the
Yes,
officer's
yes, yes,
recommendation?
yes.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Clark,
In favour.
Thank you.
Councillor Hollyoak,
Yeah, agree in favour.
White,
In favour.
Oatley,
Agree. In favour.
Harris,
All for it.
Jordan,
Yeah, for the application.
Spencer.
Sorry, did you say Spencer?
Yes, please.
Yes, in favour.
Thank you. And finally, yourself, Chair.
Yeah, in favour of the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. That's a unanimous vote in favour.
Okay, so thank you, committee. That's been carried. If we then move to item 2 on your agenda, which is pages 19 to 24 of your paperwork, application number 20-1162. The site is 68 White Crescent, Bettis. The ward is Bettis. The ward members are Councillor Janet Cleverly, Jason Jordan and Kevin Whitehead. And it proposes change of use of land to residential, construction of huts, stand-in for parking, and erection of boundary fence. Presenting officer Joanne Davidson. There are no public speakers, but the ward member indicating the desire to speak is Councillor Janet Cleverly.
Chair, I'm leaving the meeting now, okay?
Yes, thank you, Councillor
Okay.
Jordan. Thank you.
Chair, do we need to invite Councillor Watkins back?
Yes, Councillor Watkins, wherever you are, please come back in. Councillor Watkins.
We're just requesting him to join now, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just calling him in now, Chair.
Thank you.
There's no answer a moment, Chair, so I'm just going to keep trying.
Well, we'd better not start without him because that would exclude him, wouldn't it? I hope he's not gone for a walk around the grounds of Tredegar House.
We're just giving him a ring now, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
He's just logging back on now, Chair.
Thank you very much, Pamela. You're back, Trevor, okay?
Yeah, I've had my tea.
Said he went for a walk around Tredegar Park, but there we are. Okay then, so I've read the notes to the application, and the presenting officer is Joanne Davidson. So thanks for your patience, Joanne. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen. Can you confirm you can see that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so the application, as the Chair has said, 21162, it's for change of use of land to residential, construction of a hard stand-in for parking and erection of a boundary fence at 68 Y Crescent in Bettis. The area that is subject to the application is outlined in red on this plan, and the remainder of the applicant's property is outlined in blue. The proposal in more detail is for this, so you can see the carriageway at the bottom of the screen, the existing pathway, and then the hard surfacing that is proposed with a single SPG compliant off-road parking space provided. Aerial photograph here of the existing situation. So the property we're looking at is here. It's on the end next to this area of open space. A couple of things to note from the aerial, and I'll show you more photographs of this in a moment, is that this run of properties has a grass verge between their front gardens and the carriageway, and have a communal pathway leading to their gardens and gateways. You can also see that the general character and appearance of the estate in this area is very much open space, lots of greenery, very pleasant. These units on the opposite side are flats, but you can see we've got plenty of grass verge, etc., which gives the overall appearance of the street, you know, a good standard of visual amenity. So this is a street view image taken from Google. The arrow that you can see there is intended to show the position of the intended works. Again, this is so you can see the street level view of the green spaces that you could see on that aerial shot and the general good standard of visual amenity that the street enjoys because of those green spaces. Some photos provided as part of the planning application now. So these show the before picture. So the property here with that existing front boundary to the garden, as I mentioned, that communal pathway, the grass verge, and then the carriageway. Again, the area of the application is here on my cursor on this end property. And will hard surface between the wall and the existing pathway and provide that parking space. Okay, another view. So again, the area of the proposed works is here. So this section of grass verge and this pathway would be enclosed by a fence, would be hard surfaced in its entirety, and a parking space provided here. You can see at the moment that residents rely largely on street parking, and there is demand for that parking. So you know, it's understandable that residents will be seeking opportunities to provide off-road parking. You'll notice on the officer report in your agendas that the highways officer has removed an initial concern and now raises no objection subject to an appropriate condition relating to displays. So a couple of points to note there. The highway officer is effectively saying that vehicles manoeuvring on and off this space will not be harmful to highway safety subject to appropriate visibility being provided. We've mentioned in our report the presence of parked vehicles and the impact on visibility that may have, but the traffic speeds on the road are unlikely to be excessive because of parked vehicles. The other thing to note, and I'll just take you back to this layout plan a second, the depth of the area to be hard surfaced as part of this proposal will only allow for one off-road parking space in accordance with our SPG standards. That's because we have limited depth. So we can't provide another space here because it won't be long enough and won't be compliant with the SPG, so we cannot count it. So in reality, what we're getting here is one off-road parking space that will in effect replace the one on-road parking space that will now be removed in order to keep free the access to the off-road space. So in short, there's no parking benefit in our view arising from the proposal. Now, the applicant provided us with this image as part of the application on the basis that they believe a precedence has been set. We're not clear. I'm still not clear about where this is exactly. I don't have an address for it. I assume that it's in the Bettis area, but it's not obvious on the aerial image I've already shown you, and my belief is it's not in the immediate locality. But that said, it is possible that others elsewhere have done it, but without knowing the address, without being able to scrutinise any history, it's difficult to know whether A, that has consent, B, if it has consent, why consent was given, etc., etc. So I can't really comment further on that. These photographs are more recent photographs taken by the case officer. And the reasons that I've included these is because we're seeing a change. So the applicant has already constructed the fence that they seek consent for. So it's this post and rail wooden fence to demarcate assumably the boundary of the land that they've now purchased and want to hard surface. You can also see that the top rail is missing off this area closest to the carriageway, which may or may not be in response to the highway officer's comments about visibility. This is a different view showing the fence in place, but this time with that top rail present. It demarcates the area of land that is going to be hard surfaced for the parking, but also helps us to visualise the impact the removal of that section of grass verge will have in this street scene. Again, another view there and another one. So you may be wondering about the second pathway that runs along the front of the units. You'll note that the head of city services has confirmed that they have no objection to this being obstructed because access to the other properties is still achievable along the carriageway footpath and through other paths that cut through the green space. So we're recommending refusal, Chair, solely on amenity grounds. We think the removal of this grass verge will be obtrusive, it will be prominent, there's no benefit that outweighs our objections, and in addition to that, it will set an undesirable precedent, and additional pressure for the loss of the remainder of this grass verge or other grass verges in the locality, which I've mentioned from the start are a benefit of the estate layout and provide a good standard of visual amenity overall. So we recommend refusal, Chair, for the reasons stated in the report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joanne. Thank you. Committee. Tracy Holyoke, please.
Hi,
Tracy?
Chair. Yeah, I mean, I agree with the officer's recommendations. I think it looks visually intrusive. I also believe that, you know, whilst the second path, it does take out the first path and to the neighbouring property. Yes, there are other pathways going up into that property, but then that resident will be going out of their way. And I believe once that is set, people will be doing that all over Bettis, and therefore we lose the use of green space. And I think green space is really important for the health and well-being of residents. So on them grounds, Chair, I recommend the officer's report.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cleverly. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cleverly, I should call in now, sorry. Jan, can you hear me?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I can.
Sorry.
Yes, I've got a few things to say on behalf of our residents. The first thing, this street is a rat run. There is no speed bumps coming down the hill, and young people use it. They drive really fast. Only on Monday, there was a car smashed up on the road by this, and the driver drove off. And this is the reason why people are looking to find alternative pathways for their cars. But also that Google picture was not a true picture, as cars are parked on both sides of that road. And I only walked down there last week, and it's an absolute nightmare for parking because of the flats on the other side, because there's more cars in those flats than the houses. And also the other picture that Joanne showed was number 544 on Monaway, which, as you could see, the tarmac was across the grass. And as she said, if it's good enough for somebody there, why isn't it good enough for this one? I also have a letter to read out by Mr. Barton, whose property it was. The reason behind this application is that he will be issued with a new company vehicle, which is electric, which is what the government is now looking at, to go electric. And the company is putting in an electric charging point in this property, hence this charge of his vehicle. He couldn't have it if his car was parked on the road because the electric wire would be going across the pavements. And so it'd be much easier if his car was nearer his gate for the electric charge points. And shall I read the letter out from Mr. Barton now?
By all means, yeah.
Right. Thank you, committee members, for listening to my application for a change of use of land I purchased off Newport City Homes, which is now part of 68 Y Crescent. As part of the sale, Newport City Homes placed a covenant on the land, stating it can only be used for parking, which is registered with the land registry, hence his application. Back in July 2019, he made queries for Newport City Homes as to whether it was possible to purchase land in front of my property for the purpose of parking off the highway. At the same time, he sought advice from Newport Council Planning Department as to what I needed to do if I went ahead with a purchase. And the highways email being forwarded to Newport City Homes to confirm the crossing of the land was acceptable so as to allow the sale. Those emails have been attached to the application. The response back was positive, resulting in my purchasing the land in question on the TP1. As the estate was built in the 60s, the current road width is not ideal for the amount of the vehicles currently in use on the roads, which I will definitely second that. As you can see, there's vehicles mounting the curb to get through. My car is getting damaged due to the fact that other vehicles have knocked the wing mirrors, smashing them to the floor, resulting in me having to purchase new. There's already an issue in the street where cars are parking off the road, causing obstructions for wheelchair users and pushchairs, where they're forced to cross the road. This is also causing damage to the curbs where vehicles are mounting. My current company supplied vehicle is changing to electric in line with current government recommendations for removing diesel and petrol vehicles off the road in 9 years' time. He's looking to introduce a charging point on my property, making it more environmental friendly. Removing 2 vehicles off the curbside will reduce an already over-congested streets, allowing larger vehicles and emergency vehicles easier access at all times to they struggle to get through. The land sale completed in June 2020, and he had plans drawn up for the off-road parking and highways that confirmed on the application that they have no objection with the proposed use. Thank you for listening to that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Cleverly. Thank you very much. Joanne Davison, do you wish to come back in at this point, or shall I carry on with committee comments?
I can probably come in at this point, Chair, because while the councillor was speaking, I was able to check 544 Mono Way. Thank you for that address, because we didn't have it. So 544 Mono Way has no planning site history on our records. So there's no planning application being submitted for that. It may well be immune and therefore lawful. I can't comment on that, but we certainly have never had a planning application for it, so we haven't considered it. The other thing to point out, Chair, we have put it in the officer report. The applicant did seek pre-application planning advice from us regarding this proposal. I have provided a small extract of our response in the officer report, and that was negative. We did advise the applicant prior to the application that we were unlikely to support his submission. So we're being consistent in that respect. I just wanted to make that point. Obviously, the councillor has mentioned, and the applicant in their submission to us has mentioned, some entirely separate correspondence with another department in the council, Chair, and I can't comment on any correspondence between him and another regulatory body within the council, i.e. City Services. All I can confirm is that our advice has certainly been consistent to him. The councillor has obviously also mentioned the issue of parking, the personal circumstances and needs of the applicant. I would say that they would not outweigh our objections and may not even be material considerations as far as I'm concerned. That said, I mentioned in the presentation, Chair, there's no denying that parking is in demand on road, and the current property has no off-road parking along with its neighbours. So perfectly understandable why there's pressure to provide off-road parking. Unfortunately, the proposal in this case, though, is not acceptable in our view for the reason we've stated in the report. I hope that clarifies some of the matters anyway.
Yes, thank you, Joanne. That's very good. I've got a list of hands raised, but before I get to that, Councillor Ferris wishes to ask the question of Joanne. So, Councillor Ferris.
Thank you, Chair. Joanne, with these fences coming across the frontage of the properties, how would wheelchair users and mums with kids in buggies negotiate that road now?
Councillor, the head of City Services or the Highways officer has obviously commented on the public safety and accessibility issues. The existing pathway next to the carriageway will remain. So the application effectively blocks that second pathway that runs directly to the front of the gardens. But off the pathway next to the carriageway, there are a number of pathways leading to the fronts of properties. Would you like me to show you a couple of photographs again, just to clarify that point?
Yes, please, because I didn't see it. I didn't appreciate it.
Okay. Can you see that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see. So the existing pathway works.
Yes.
Yeah, and yes, the only thing they'd have to worry about is traffic pulling in and pulling out while they're negotiating that pathway.
Yes. And as Councillor Cleverly mentioned, there is, I have a feeling it's actually shown on some of these photographs, parking going on in all sorts of ways. So we've got parking on both sides. We do have some risk of obstruction of the pavement from parked vehicles. You can see it perhaps best on that photo. But the reason why we haven't included a highway related objection is because we don't have an objection from the highway officer.
Okay, thanks very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Tracy Hollyoak.
Hi, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I just noted that, you know, when Councillor Cleverly was speaking about the resident, you noted that the applicant wanted 2 cars parked on that driveway. However, we've already established through the officer's recommendation that that would only be parking for 1. So there's no real, I mean, looking at that space, it's obviously allocated for 2, and that's the intention there because the resident has said so in his letter. So for me, there is no benefits, and I still stand by what I say. I recommend the officer's recommendations.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hollyoak. Anyone else, please? Councillor White.
Thank you, Chair. I think this raises, from what has been said, this raises a point of policy, and is something possibly that's going to arise on a lot of estates in Newport, and that is people having cars that are electric and needing to be able to charge them at their home, and the dangers of running cables across public footpaths. I would be of the mind to support a permeable surface driveway with suitable drainage, but I wouldn't support any fence. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor White. Councillor William Routley, please.
Thank you, Chair. Basically the same point as Richard White. We're going to be faced with these types of dilemmas as we go forward over the next 10 years. And I'd just like to look at where are we with producing policies regarding electric vehicles coming off the road, because they're going to have to come off the road and be closer to the residential properties. However, I think the owner of 544 Betty's is probably not going to be very happy later today or going forward in the future, having their names and stuff identified there, because in case they put forward an application that is unlawful. However, moving forward, I think the application itself, as it stands, without a permanent policy in place for how we do these things, regards, it's just too piecemeal. For me, I'd like to see a policy develop whereby we would embrace the whole of the estate, if that's the way to go, making electric cars more viable. I accept what the officer says. At the present, I think it's just a mismatch of everything there. I accept the problems with the traffic. The only thing I'd say, the more traffic you get off the road there, the faster the speed is going to become. Cars parked will normally act as a barrier to reducing traffic speed. For me, it's the wrong time, and I support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Routley. Councillor Trevor Watkins, please.
Thank you, Chair. Could I have a look at the plan of the property altogether, please. Joanne?
Okay, I'll share my screen now and you can tell me which slide you
It's the
want.
full footplate of the plan of the property I'm looking at. Right, so on that, where would the vehicle, once it's off the road, where would the vehicle be parked? On the red square, or are they taking up part of the garden as well?
Can you see my, sorry, Councillor, can you see my cursor on that?
Yes.
Yeah, there.
That's where the car is going to be parked.
That's where the car will be parked at right angles to the highway.
So we're still going to have a cable all the way from the house to the parking place.
You would assume so, Councillor.
I have concerns, and I understand what other members of the planning committee are talking about, but what concerns me, we need to change this policy to be able to have a greener way of dealing with electrification of vehicles which need to be charged at their home. If that parking of that vehicle was within the garden area, which I believe the 544 motorway is, it doesn't foul the footpath when it's parked, then I would go along, I would accept this. But being that is not the case, it's going to be parked on that grassed area, but obviously it'll be tarmacked or whatever, then I go along with the officer's recommendation of being refused. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Watkins. Any other councillor wish to comment, please?
Yes, Chair, my hand is up. I don't know whether it's showing it.
No, it's it's not showing, but sorry about that. And if you could speak.
However, my question has been asked and answered. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other councillor whose hand I can't see on my screen? No. Well, at the minute, I've got a proposal from Councillor Hollyoak that we accept officer's recommendation. I'm going to second it, though. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Chair. I'll second it.
Okay, it's been proposed and seconded that we accept officer's recommendation. Prepared to vote? Pamela, could you implement the voting process, please?
No problem, Chair. Councillor Guy, please.
Accept the officer's recommendations.
Thank you.
Councillor Clark. Thank you. Councillor Clark.
Accept.
Councillor Hollyoak.
Accept officer's recommendations.
Councillor White.
For the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Routledge.
Accept the officer's recommendations.
Councillor Ferris, please.
Pardon me. I support the councillor's recommendations.
Councillor Spencer, please.
I also support the recommendations.
And finally, the Chair.
I support the officer's recommendation.
I have not a vote, Chair.
Sorry, Councillor Watkins, I do apologise. And your vote, please.
For the officer's recommendation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Apologies for
Councillor
that.
Watkins.
Okay, no problem.
Could I, just from the chair's point of view, I've listened to the discussion that we've just had on this item, and although it's not a planning consideration, the electrification, cars, etc., and grass verges have been discussed. Most of the housing estates in Newport are under the care and guidance of Newport City Homes, and I think this has thrown a problem up for the future. I think that the council should seek an urgent meeting with Newport City Homes to discuss the their policy for disposal of land, because inevitably this ends up before planning, or that ends up before planning. And I mean, I'm not so sure Newport City Homes are short of money that they're selling assets such as this off. They might be disposing of them because of maintenance problems, but we need to, I would suggest, to have some sort of meeting at officer level to discuss the ongoing policy of Newport City Homes with the disposal of assets.
Totally agree with you, Chairman.
Yeah, I'll second that, Chair.
Okay, I mean, as I said, it's not a planning consideration. You've considered the application today on its merits, and you've listened to the officer's report, and you've made a decision accordingly. But for the ongoing situation, this could crop up in St Julian's, Dufferin, Bettis, wherever, could it not?
Can I just have a comment on that in regards to, okay, we mentioned Newport City Homes, but there are homes out there, houses, properties out there that don't belong to the registered social landlord, and therefore we need to ensure that our policies meet with the green policies, you know, set out by not only Welsh Assembly Government, Westminster, but Newport City Council as well. And we need to look at that and make sure we got a policy that fits all, you know, places.
Thank you for that, Councillor Watkins. Thank you. Right, we've come to the end of the agenda. So thank you all for attending. Have a good day, and we'll